this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
There is certain madness in his method.
He actually speaks very good English, we just don't want to tell him.
In this current regime, he seemed to be really valuing those who stood by him during the election campaign.
God bless you, and God bless America.
The IT sector should be really worried. The very crucial thing is going to be H-1B visa.
Hello and welcome. I'm Srinivasan, and in this edition of Talking Sense with Srini, we're discussing Donald J. Trump. And joining me to discuss is our editor-in-chief, Mr. Srinivasan. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, this is the second time we're discussing.
Absolutely. Let me begin with the kind of camaraderie that Prime Minister Modi and Donald J. Trump actually share on the world stage, right? The world knows it. Do you believe that India is certainly at a sweet spot? Because Foreign Minister Jaishankar recently said, look, there are countries that are certainly nervous about Trump being in the Oval Office. India is certainly not one of them. You think India is in a better position now?
No, I won't say that. You know, in normal diplomacy doesn't work like this. If it was any other president who has taken over the United States, then things would have been different because the rules of or the history or the rules or the regulations would have been entirely different. But now, since Trump has come, one cannot guess the way he is going to conduct his diplomacy. Look at his character. He seems to be a person who, who speaks unabashedly. He says whatever he feels like. He doesn't seem to be bothered about any niceties. His entire, speeches and everything is in your face. He is not one who would, nuance something, or he would, hide behind anything. He is a different kind of a politician. I think largely it comes from the construct what he is. He was a real estate agent.
Okay.
And then, and not an ordinary one, a real estate builder who has negotiated, he must have done hard negotiations and built big business for himself. And he's a billionaire and no ordinary person. And the way he has chosen his cabinet also makes clear that he is going to take that path. And the other thing we have to remember is that this Trump is going to be very different from what you saw the Trump in the earlier version. Because he has learned many things since then. In the earlier one, even his own officials, some of them, were actually trying to undercut him. And then he has understood the way the world diplomacy works. He has, the way he is now conducting will be very different. And he has also surrounded himself with people who he knows personally, who are his friends, and also people from, a technology field. So it's a very different kind of a mix. Now your question is what kind of camaraderie he will have with India or with the Prime Minister. It is true that Trump and Modi share a very fine personal relationship. In fact, Trump during his campaign also has said that Modi is a very fine man.
That's right.
But then he said he didn't have the same thing to say about the Indian officials, trade officials.
That's right.
He was very clear when he was talking about Indian trade. So it's very clear that though he has a friendship, kind of a good, warm relationship with Modi, whether that continues is another question. Because in this current regime, he seemed to be really valuing those who stood by him during the election campaign. And there's a little faux pas which happened probably in September when Modi was in the US and he couldn't, there couldn't be a meeting between him and Trump, and the Trump was going for his, perhaps the most difficult campaign he would have thought at that point of time. There are speculations in the media that could have actually caused a little, I won't say friction, a little issue between the two. Or maybe that's the reason why he has not been invited for his swearing in. But these are largely, these kind of things never get confirmed. But one clue you get from what the outgoing ambassador, American ambassador to India,
Eric Cassidy,
yeah. So what he said in an interview is very interesting. He said, why should Prime Minister Modi and President Trump should meet in a crowded place? Maybe they have one-to-one private meeting, which will be far more useful. Let's hope for that. Let's hope that's a tack India takes, because India really requires to have a solid continued relationship which has been bipartisan all these years.
That's right.
So it is very much essential for our own economy to grow, for our own trade to grow, because we need to remember many things. We are very much dependent on US for many things. I think I will talk about more when you further go
That's right.
into the discussion.
It's also very important. When you talk of Trump, we should also talk about tariffs, right? I don't think any other president is kind of obsessed with the word tariff. He in fact said, tariffs is the most beautiful word in the dictionary. You think he's already reserved 60% tariff for China already? So you think the global economy is bracing for some kind of a rough ride?
Yeah, certainly it's a very unexpected terrain which the entire globe is walking into. One doesn't know what kind of outcome, because he doesn't believe in multilateralism. And even his aides, close officials whom he has elected right now as his cabinet, they all seem to be sharing the same view. So he doesn't believe in whether it is multilateral trade, whether it is agreement for climate, or whether it comes to even health related issues. He doesn't seem to be believing in any multilateral forum. He actually perhaps likes more one-to-one bilateral relationship. That's the kind of a thing he has shown so far, and I'm sure he is going to continue. So the question here is, what kind of relation India will have? What
That's
kind
right.
of thing we must expect? I think there are 2-3 danger signals already have come. India's trade with the US, as far as our major revenue for us, a major share of our revenue comes from services, which is IT, and it's over $230 billion or some such thing. 54% of that, the trade is, it is with the US. So our exports of software to US, 54% comes from this share.
That's right.
So we are very much dependent. So the IT sector should be really worried. And then for them, the very crucial thing is going to be H-1B visa. Now, what is the stand he takes? Luckily for us, Elon Musk, who is his very close confidant, who was in his Margola residence, now he has actually moved to, I'm told that he's going to have, I read a report where he's going to have an office in the White House itself. Right. He's moving there with him. He is in favor of India because he himself is an H-1B visa beneficiary, and he thinks that this is important to get good, talented foreigners into America. So he wants that policy to continue. But then the hard liners, like you have, those coming from that MAGA, Make America Great Again movement, those guys are actually opposing it. And then, the editor of Breitbart, he's, very opposed. So there are,
he's a staunch right-wing.
Yeah, so staunch right-wing guys, they're all opposing it. So, it really depends on how he negotiates this.
Right.
Another very important issue, which is on the plank on which this Trump has won the election, is going to be immigration.
Okay.
There are a whole lot of migration which has taken place from all over other parts into America, and so he wants these migrants. He's taken a stand on that. So what might happen is, if you look at the numbers, and they're humongous for India, there are NRIs who are in America, nearly about, I think, about 15 million. The numbers are very big all over the world. Especially in America. And there are many H-1B visa holders. But then there are also illegal. There are about 20,000 people who have been identified whose all legal courses have been exhausted for them. What happens if they are sent back to India? That will be a huge embarrassment for us. So one really doesn't know how these things are going to take place. So we are talking about illegal migrants, not about legal ones. So that we need to separate. There are about 3 lakh or more students who are studying in the US. And many of them are very jittery because they are all wondering whether they're going to get visas. Are they going to get what is called OPT when after they complete their education, there's a bridge visa which is given to them, whether they're going to get that. So if you look at reports, many students who have for whom it wasn't January 1, it's January 20, which is more important for them.
That's right.
What happens after January 20?
That's
so
right.
They're looking at it very carefully because that will determine how this year is going to be for them.
What's also quite bizarre about Donald Trump is, he keeps talking about, taking over Greenland, taking back the Panama Canal, and, in fact, making Canada the 51st, state in the United States of America. Isn't this quite unprecedented that a US president is talking about putting out his expansionist views and ideas?
Yeah, again, what I'm trying to tell you is that, look, for us it may look very bizarre. For an outside world, suddenly American president says, I'm going to take over Greenland, I'm going to get back Panama, I'm going to, make, Canada 51st state. Now, it's not Mexico, Gulf of Mexico anymore, it is going to be Gulf of America. All these things may sound very bizarre. But there is certain madness in his method, I think. He's not just saying these things.
Is there a bit of a Modi in him, in Trump?
No.
In terms of naming and all this?
Modi has a different ideological bearing, See, they may, at one level, you may seem identical in the sense that, he's talking about, this white supremacy kind of thing, the backers of him, MAGA. And here you have RSS.
The Hindutva brigade.
So that's a different thing. I'm here talking about something else. He's very much a businessman mode. He very much believes in deals. Now, he's not saying these things just like that. He wants Panama Canal because he feels that most of the trade goes to that. And America has an interest in that. And he says that, no, Chinese are trying to take control. It's not as if Chinese have taken control. They have actually bought a port there, I think. And he's trying to say this because he wants to ensure that American trade goes through freely. Those are his motivations. Second, about Greenland. Why he's saying, he says it's a security issue, and there is a point why he's saying it. Because Russia is closing on to that island. And then it's from that they can straight away fire missiles into the United States.
That's right. Okay.
So it's in the trajectory, and therefore, from a strategic point of view, they think Greenland is important for him. As far as Mexico, he feels that, look, a lot of migrants are coming from Mexico. I need to clean up. And as far as Canada is concerned, it's more of a he probably thinks too much wokeism there, I need to handle it. So there you may say that it's a little bit out of sync what he's saying. But then overall, whatever he's saying, he seemed to have some of the other rationale behind it.
I also wanted to get your perspective on Quad, right? I mean, it's a strategic alliance, not a military alliance. And if you look at the partners in Quad, India, Japan, and Australia, they seem to strengthen the relationship with China right now. So you think the Quad will sort of go through a rough ride once again under Trump?
Again, we will see how it goes. It's a bit early days to say anything about it. But one thing is very clear. Quad was formed for what? The sharing of information. And you correctly said, what is the sharing of information? So to have a control over Indian Ocean.
That's right. Indo-Pacific.
So Indo-Pacific. So that's the reason it was constituted. And all the four countries out of that, Australia is very close to America. Then you have Japan and India. Japanese. I mean, it's a report which our own Federal carried. Our columnist T.K. Arun wrote that Japan probably would be more keen to come closer to China.
Yeah.
They would like to renew or improve relations. India itself is trying to improve its relation with China because in this uncertain world, why not have a better relation with China? Because we need to get the trade. So therefore, it is important that we are in the game. So China, a lot of components we receive from there. So it is important that we have a better relation with them. I think Indian government is moving towards that. As far as Australia is concerned, again, why would they unnecessarily get into a hassle? So in that sense, if Quad members improve the relationship with China, that doesn't necessarily mean that this sharing of information, which is more strategic in nature, which is more military in nature, which is more for security, born out of security concerns and for strategic reasons. Why would that change? I still feel that it may not change so much. But then I would add a caveat here. We really need to wait and see how this proceeds in the coming days
That's
and
right.
months.
Okay. So one last question there, sir. We will build American, buy American, hire American. That's what Trump said in one of his campaigns. Does this mean the going is going to be difficult for Indians? Is very American dream, considering the visa restriction that might come in going forward?
Look, again, he is saying lots of these things, but end of the day, if America becomes very insular or inclusive, they can't be. That's not the concept of the country as a whole. If America doesn't, if really he increases the tariff walls, the way he's saying 60% against China, 20% against Europeans, and he's also threatening all kinds of tariff walls against others. And it sounds very as if he's trying to isolate himself, but I don't think that would happen because America needs a lot of imports. The prices will go up in the US. A lot of products come from outside. So America doesn't make these things. The biggest strength they have is the dollar.
That's right.
So they just buy many things. Of course, strategic issues they make, they're very good in technology, very good in many things, but then they are also, it's an interdependent world. They also need support of, imports from other countries. So I don't think India need to buy, because of he's saying that we need not worry. For instance, oil. America is more or less self-reliant on oil now. Because their own wells are producing more oil. They are perhaps the number one producer of oil in the world now. So they don't need that. But they would still play a role in Middle East because for strategic interest, the biggest unfinished agenda for Trump still remains, the Israel-Middle East conflict. That issue still remains. Though I think they're moving towards a peace agreement. Again, because of Trump influence. Ukraine remains an issue. Iran remains an issue. And biggest of all, China remains an issue for him. So these are the issues he still have to tackle. So I think in the overall things, of course, the world is looking at him in a way, the world is pretty scared and looking at him very cautiously. I still feel that the Indian diplomacy and the Indian diplomats, if they're managed to work their way through and keep the administration on their side, I think they can sort out many issues.
Thank you very much, sir. Fantastic talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.